All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I of course want to start off by giving all praises and glories unto Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Yahweh, which is the name of who the world ignorantly calls God, and Yahweh Shai, which is the name of who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. And I just want to do a little video, man, because I know, Mind of God's been asking me, for I want to say maybe a couple weeks now. He's been asking me a question about he teaches that hell in the Bible is the earth. That's what he teaches. Now keep in mind, I agree that is true. However, with that being said, it has three different meanings. Okay, it has three different meanings. It depends on the context that the word is used in. Okay, and just for starters off the start, one thing that it can be, okay, is the earth. Okay, and we're going to get all the precepts, right? That's in Ecclesiastes, was that the 3rd chapter? Or I believe that's the 15th verse, could be mistaken, right? But that proves that the earth is hell, right? The next one is a condition of suffering, okay? That is also what hell can mean, depending on the context, what the word is used in. That's why you have a term that, people in the world might use, when they're down on their luck, right, or catching misfortune, they might say, I'm catching hell, right? So that's an example of how hell can be a condition of suffering. And then the third example of what hell is the grave. Okay, so that's the three meanings of the word hell in the Bible. Okay, one can mean the earth, the second can mean a condition of suffering, and the third is the grave. Okay, there's no such place where people go and they burn forever after death. That is a fairy tale that the Roman Catholic Church, they made that up to scare people into paying money to the church, right? So the people, what they would do is, the church would tell them, okay, well, you need, in order to be forgiven for the sin, you have to pay the church, I don't know, 100 shekels, right, of silver, what they used back in that time, whatever that might be. Okay, but they had to pay the church money, and they'd be told, okay, well, this will be forgiven, for you, so you don't go to hell when you die. Again, you just got to do the research on that. But hell is a fairy tale. Okay, now the word hell is in the Bible. That's true, but the word does not mean what we've all been told it means. Okay, a matter of fact, there was a place, in the ancient world, they would burn their trash in like a pit of fire. I believe it was called Gehenna, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, and you can look into that. Okay, just Google that, Gehenna. Okay, it was basically an area where you take and burn the trash. Okay, so that, also sparked the origin of the hell myth. Okay, but as far as, when you die, a person's soul goes back to the Most High who given it. Okay, a matter of fact, it says in Ecclesiastes, not sure of the verse off the top of the head, but it says in Ecclesiastes that the spirit of a man goes upwards, but the spirit of a beast goes downwards. Right, the spirit of an animal goes into the earth, but the spirit of a man goes upwards when you pass away. And all the spirits go back to the hands of the Most High. And that's in the book of Job, chapter 2. Okay? And as I said, man, hey, look, when we get into these precepts and start to break it down, man, hey, look, we bring nothing but pure edification, man. Unlike these, as Elder Apostle Tahar calls them, these so-called cemetery schools, or seminary. Right, he calls them the damn cemetery schools. Inside joke. But it's true, man. That's what they are. They're damn what's the word I'm looking for? Sanitary. I hope I'm pronouncing that word correctly. Schools, man. Okay, they're teaching you what? Nothing but a bunch of nonsense, man. Right, and that's where, Vocab Malone, learned what he, ministers. Okay, and all these other cats out there, like that one guy, what's that guy? I believe it's E.J. Love, right? Which, fun fact, by the way, E.J. Love actually offered me a power washing job for him down in Atlanta, which, hey, I would have accepted that, that job offer. But the only reason why is I obviously could not is because I am, about, 1,400 miles away from there. So, but hey, thank you for the job offer, EJ. And I say that sincerely, of course. All right, because I like that guy, even though he might be an Edomite. I really do like that guy. All right, I think he's pretty cool. Anyway, enough rambling on. We'll get right into the scriptures. Let's go to the book of Jonah. Okay, now I always like to bring this verse up to prove that hell can be a condition that's played out on the earth, okay? Because if you ever read, the story of Jonah, which I'm sure we all are, may I say, pretty familiar with the story, right? Jonah was swallowed by a fish, all right? And you know why? Because he didn't want to go to, to teach in Nineveh, so he was fleeing from that, so he didn't have to fulfill that, right? So he tried to get on the ship so he could flee, to another, country. So the Lord, had the man swallowed by a fish, right? So, Jonah stayed in the belly of this fish, which, mind of God, by the way, it's a real fish, by the way. And matter of fact, for those guys out there who question it like that, what's that guy? Brother Polite. Right, Brother Polite, I remember that one video, man, where he was out in New York with, Elder Tahar and the other great Millstone apostles, right? They were all, arguing, right, debating, and Polite was like, I'll let you pass with the story about the fish that ate a whole nigga, but you ain't getting that rape pass, man. Inside joke, but shout out to anybody who saw that video. You know what I'm referring to, okay? But yeah, one cut to that is, first of all, how the hell can you know what's in the ocean? They've only explored 5% of the ocean. So how the hell can you know what's in the, the 6% or the 7th? Let alone all of the, all the rest, right? Anyway, I digress. Let's go right into the scriptures. This is the book of Jonah, chapter 2 and verse 1. It says, and then Jonah prayed unto the Lord his God out of the fish's belly, and said, I cry by reason of mine affliction unto the Lord, and he heard me. Out of the belly of hell cried I, and thou heardest my voice. Right, so, again, if you read the story, Jonah was in the belly of a fish, right, an actual real-life fish in the ocean. But he called the fish's stomach hell. So my question to you Christian pastors and all you guys out there who are, teaching this hell thing is, well, wait a second. Well, this clearly is an example of how the word hell in the Bible does not always mean, what you guys are teaching, right? A place where, people burn after they die if they've been wicked. That's not true. And I clearly have proven that with this one verse. Matter of fact, if that's not enough, right? If you're still not convinced, inside joke. Chills joke. Anyway, let's go to the book of Psalms, the 9th chapter. Look, man, this is why, they don't call ETT the notorious BIG of the scriptures for no reason, man. All right, because, hey, look, we've already brought out more edification than, your Christian pastor does in this whole 2-hour seminaries, man. You know what I'm saying? We brought out 100 times more amount of information than he brings out in this entire seminary. Anyway, let's go to the book of Psalms, chapter 9, and verse 17. All right, just to show that in the scriptures, the word hell can mean a condition of suffering. Okay, Psalms chapter 9 and verse 17, it says, the wicked shall be turned into hell, and all nations that forget Yahweh. Let's read that again. Psalms chapter 9 and verse 17, it says, the wicked shall be turned into hell, and all nations that forget Yahweh. Right, so my question to you guys out there who believe in that hell doctrine, well, how can people and how can a city be turned into hell if hell is a place, which is what you guys teach? Well, by the information presented, we can clearly see that that's not the case. And guys will go to what is that, Luke the 16th chapter, with what is that, Lazarus and the rich man, and they'll use that and say, well, see, that proves that hell exists. Well, that's not true, because first of all, the stories that Christ gave, a vast majority of them are just parables. Okay, which, fun fact, or let me rephrase myself, just to give a little example of what I mean by that. You have certain, stories that are made up to say, may I say, inspire or to give a good meaning, but that doesn't mean they're actually true, if that makes sense. And one that I can, quote to clearly prove my statement would be, the story about the tortoise and the hare, right? That's a story that was made up to, for a good, meaning, right? For good motivation. What the rabbit, right? He just spent his time, trying to become the first, right? But the tortoise took his time, but the tortoise ended up winning at the end. Okay, so, and the rabbit lost, all right, because he went in a hurry. So what does that story mean? Basically means what? Slow and steady wins, right? Which, by the way, a fun fact, the story actually is true, because over in China, and you can find this video online, over in China, they did a race between a tortoise and a rabbit, and surprisingly enough, the tortoise actually won. But, that's a story for another time. But if you want to watch that, you can find that on YouTube. Okay, but anyway, getting back to what I was saying, is Lazarus and the rich man, that's not a real story. That did not actually happen. That's just a parable. Okay, it's not a real story. It's just a made-up story for, to get a message across. And it's lucky if I stutter a little bit. Anyway, let's go to the book of Ecclesiastes. We're going to address what Mind of God asked me to address. Bear with me a second. Okay, there it is. All right, Ecclesiastes, I believe that's the 3rd chapter. Okay, Ecclesiastes 3, I'm going to start at verse 15, but the verse I want is in verse 16, but we'll start a little bit above, all right? Anyway, this is the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 15. It says, that which has been is now, and that which is to be has been already, and Yahweh requires that which is past. Okay, right, the Lord requires the past. Okay, so, you guys out there who, if we bring up, what happened to the Lord's chosen people here in America, man, right, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, what happened? Anybody who's been to school, you were taught the history of America, what? That slaves were brought over here from Africa, and off the back, of the blacks, America was built. Okay, leading up to, sometime in the, 1800s, they, abolished, slavery, but, before that, America is built off the back, of the so-called black man, which the black man is the Jew of the Bible, right? The so-called black, Hispanic, and Native American are the Lord's chosen people. Okay, you're not taught that, though. Okay, those guys over in Israel, those are the imposters, right? Or as was that? As Mario said in, what's that, a racist Mario YouTube video, look that up, right? Mario called them, what, pretendos, right? They're pretenders, right? Pretendos, inside joke. But yeah, those are the imposters. Those aren't the real Jews. And first of all, if you were the real Jews, the scriptures say that when the Lord people return to their land, there will be no more war in that land. But wait a second, last week, you guys were just going back and forth with what was it, Gaza, right? Israel and Gaza were firing rockets at each other last week, man. Okay, so wait a second, there's still war in the land. And not only to mention that, y'all over there in Israel are having gay pride parades. So clearly those are not the Lord's chosen people. Those are imposters. Those are pretendos. Those aren't the Lord's chosen people. The Lord's chosen people, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, are primarily here in America, aka Babylon the Great, because that's where the main deliverance is going to happen, right? The main deliverance is going to be from America, right? The second Exodus is going to take place in America, which I should say it is true, pertaining to Matthew 24. I believe it's verse 36, I could be mistaken. But, that on down speaks about the angels collecting, I should say, rapturing, for lack of better words, the elect from all over the world. So even though a vast majority of the Jews are in America, they're really throughout the entire world. That's why you have camps, coming up, on YouTube from all over the, well, can't say globe, but from all over the plane. Inside joke. But anyway, Getting back to what I was saying, verse 16, Ecclesiastes 3:16, it says, "And moreover I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, and the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there. I said in my heart, Yahweh should judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time there for every purpose and for every work." Right, but the point of the matter is, let's read verse 16 again. It says, "And moreover I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, and the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there." Right, what's that talking about? What's under the sun? The earth is under the sun. Okay, and that goes into the whole flat earth thing, man. Okay, because, we've all been taught, that the earth revolves around the sun. That's not true, man. First of all, when you deal with the holy text, right, a lot of guys, out there, if you ask them the question about, the topic of the whole, shape of the world thing, like Reg Nibbler, I asked him a question about that, like, man, what do you think about that? He was like, not really interested, which that's fair enough. But, the ironic thing, or the interesting thing, for lack of better words, would be, what is that? Joshua chapter 10 and verse 12. Okay, what about that verse? Okay, it says what? The Lord told the sun to stand still and the moon. So wait a second. Going by the scriptures, that implies that the sun and the moon are moving, not the earth moving. In fact, there's too many verses in the scriptures that say the earth doesn't move. Okay, and there's nobody who can prove the earth does move. For an example, there's one experiment that I can quote. What they would do is they took a cannonball, right? Or I should say, took a cannon, right? Place that straight up in the air and, shoot the cannonball straight up, right? Now, if the earth was spinning 1,000 miles an hour, the cannonball should land, miles and miles away, when it comes back, to the earth. But a vast majority of the time, it will either land directly inside the cannon from where it was shot, or it will land maybe a foot away if it's windy outside. Okay, but that experiment in and of itself, and you can do the research to confirm it to be true, that alone clearly proves the earth doesn't move. Okay, and then they claim that the atmosphere moves with the earth, but that's a story for another time. I'm not going to get off onto that right now, but it's always interesting to question those things. Okay, but anyway, getting back to the topic of the video, man. Okay, I brought scripture here. I want to ask these Christians, man, because if I ask a Christian about the lake of fire, they're gonna tell me that that's hell. Okay, so I got something here I would like you to read for me, and to tell me the interpretation of such a scripture, right? Such a scripture. Excuse me for stuttering. So please tell me the interpretation if my teaching is incorrect. Revelation chapter 20 and verse 14. It says, "And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire." This is the second death. Okay, so you guys out there in the Christian church, you guys teach that that the lake of fire is hell. Well, I just read in the Bible, once again, Revelation chapter 20 and verse 14, it says death was thrown into the lake of fire, and so was hell thrown into the lake of fire. So clearly that proves that hell is not the lake of fire. Okay, that's a misconception. And if it is, well, then you tell me, how can hell be thrown into hell itself? That's it's ridiculous. All right, but these guys out here don't know these the scriptures. All right, anyway, you see, I have I wanted to get these. Let's go to the book of I believe it's 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel 28. Oh, it's lucky. I believe it would be 1 Samuel then, because 2 Samuel don't have 28 chapters in it. Okay. 1 Samuel chapter 28 and verse 19. Okay, now just for context, if you read this chapter, right, what happened was King Saul went to a witch, right, or a person who, in this time, right, those who have ghost boxes, I believe they're called, right, they can talk to the souls of them who have died. I believe it's called Spirit Box, if not mistaken. But this is basically what's going on here, right? King Saul went to a witch, as they will call them, right, or somebody who deals with talking to the dead. he went to them, I should say to her, and he wanted her to summon the spirit of Samuel for him so he could talk to him to find out, what's going on, because the Lord wasn't listening to to Saul, right? To King Saul. The Lord wasn't listening to King Saul. Okay, so he went to a witch so she could summon the spirit of Samuel so Saul could talk to Samuel. Okay, just for the context of what's going on. Okay, but listen here. At the time of this writing, the Lord turned away from King Saul. Okay, so Saul was now wicked. He was no longer a righteous man of the Lord. Okay, so Samuel was a righteous man of the Lord who had passed away. But Saul, Saul was a wicked man now. Okay, anyway, 1 Samuel chapter 28 and verse 19. It says, "Moreover, the Lord will also deliver Israel with thee into the hands of the Philistines. And tomorrow shalt thou and thy sons be with me. The Lord also shall deliver the host of Israel into the hands of the Philistines." Right, so Samuel told Saul that tomorrow you and your sons are going to die in war and you're going to rest with me in the spiritual world. So it's like, wait a second. Why is a righteous man telling a wicked man that they're both going to rest together tomorrow? Right, in death, because, according to the Bible, when you die, that's just sleep. Okay, that's why on your tombstone they have, it says, R.I.P., right? Rest in peace. Okay, that's what happens when you die. That's a video for another time. Anyway, the point that I bring that up is, why is a righteous man telling a wicked man they're both going to rest together when they die? I thought the wicked man goes to hell. So you see, that's clearly a false doctrine according to the Bible, and it can't be supported by proof. Okay, and one more I want to bring up one more. Okay, and again, you can read these precepts yourself to confirm or to disprove what I'm saying. Okay, but hey, bringing out the information that we have presented here, it's very clear that what these churches are teaching clearly ain't right, man. Right? There's clearly something going on. And what I'm saying anyway, Job chapter 3. Let me see. Okay, let me see where I want to start. I'll start at verse 13, but if you read that entire chapter from verse 1 to verse 13, basically Job was saying that he wished he wasn't alive anymore, right? He wishes was never born, if you read the entire chapter. Okay, but now he's going to go on to describe the spiritual world, right, where he would have been. Okay, now I want you to pay close attention to this. Okay, Job chapter 3 and verse 13. "For now should I have lain still and been quiet, I should have slept, and had been at rest, with kings and with counselors of the earth, which build desolate places for themselves, or of princes, they have gold, for the houses with silver." Bear with me a second. I was lucky about that. "Or if princes they have gold, who filled their houses with silver, or as in hidden untimely birth I had not been. As infants which never saw the light, there the wicked they cease from troubling, and there the weary are at rest. There the prisoners rest together, they hear not the voice of the oppressor. The small and the great are there, and the servant is free from his master." Right, and we can stop there. Okay, but the point of the matter is what? That's clearly describing the spiritual world, okay, and where a person goes when they pass away. Okay, he said what? There the good and the wicked, they rest together. There the small and the great are, right? There the prisoners are free from the hearing the voice of the slave master. Okay, so there you go. I mean, clearly hell has been disproven. Okay, and we've clearly given the examples. Oh, and also, I know there's a verse, I don't have it with me here, but to prove that hell can be the grave, King David said, something along the lines of, "The Lord shall not, I shall go down into hell to mourn for my sons." So what was he talking about? He was talking about he'd go down into the grave because he was, coming to the end of his life, because he was an older man at the time. As I said, I don't know the verse off the top of the head, but you can look that up. Maybe I'll put it down in the comment section. But anyway, I hope that was edifying, video. I've went into this, subject a few times before, but it's always good to, address the information again, because I know somebody's, asked me recently, to address this topic. But anyway, with that being said, of course, I want to end off by giving all praise to Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, for this truth. Mighty God, hey, look, man, I want you to do a response to this, man. Okay, if you disagree, then you do a response. Okay, and I'll watch it. But anyway, if anybody made this far into the video, put hashtag menorah in the comment section down below. But anyway, with that being said, I'm going to say shalom.